Welcome learner. My name is Shibaji Debnath. In this tutorial, I will be talk about NestJS controller. Okay, so what is controllers and how it work with the NestJS? NestJS actually, when we work with routing systems, so that time NestJS controller basically working with the NestJS routing system, NestJS routing working with the controllers. Okay, so how it work? When we get some request, http request, so this is the actually http request, which is the browser. So if we open any browser for a site, so this time I open the site with localhost 3000, so this is the actually request, and through this particular url I requesting to the server. And when we got http requests, and these requests are managed by the nestjs engine, and that engine actually looking for the particular controllers where are accepting that particular request. Okay, so here is the controller very important part, and controllers are manage the routing system. Okay, so here every controllers manage every different type of routing system. So for that purpose, here we, if we want to create any routing system, routing url or routing endpoints, so that time we must be create first controller, and after that we can create so many methods or functions inside that particular controller class, and that particular controller class can be called so many http methods which is actually connecting with the url. Okay, so this is the actually thing. A controller purpose receive specific request applications routing mechanism. Controller receive request frequently. Each controllers more than one routes. Different route can be perform different actions. So there have so many things are actually used, but that particular controllers are basically used with the classes and decorators. So decorators actually special type of functions which is actually uses in our NestJS platform, and who are actually working with AngularJS, they already know about what is the decorator function. And decorator functions is the very good process to manage the inner laying activities which is actually need to be write or maintain behind the process through that particular decorators function. So decorators basically type of function which is actually applicable top of the class, top of the variables, top of the functions, anywhere we can use that decorator functions. So basically decorator is a function. Okay, so what kind of process can we use? So here actually create a controller class, and this is the cats controller. So when we are create any controller class, so this is the actually basic controller class, and before that when we are actually create the controller class, before that controller class we are added a @controller. So this @controller is a actually function, and this particular functions actually called as a decorator. Okay, so when we are actually see @annotations, so that time here it is a decorator functions. So similar type @get is a decorator function. So many things actually here. Okay, so how can we apply this particular process in our application? Okay, so last time I already talked about what is the basic application and how can we manage our applications. So I already talked about that before last training session. Okay, but in this training session I want to create different type of routing process with the using the controllers. Okay, so this is the actually basic controller, and when we see the get method and get hello functions, and this get hello functions actually getting some response from that functions. This is the actually basic output. So if we want to remove this particular part, and if we want to use just hello world like this, and after saving this, if we are refresh it, so then we can see the output, only text format output. So this is the actually very simplest way to see our output. So this is the actually very basic controllers which can be applied or uses for our application. Okay, we can tell it as a home, get home or home. So whatever you want to write in this particular method as a home, so nothing it change to for output, because this is the output almost same, but we could not see any changes for the output, but we are changes the functions name. So many processes are changes into the controller section, and this time I just simply change the name home page. Okay, so this is the home page. So this time we can see the homepage text output from this URL. Okay, so if we want another URL like about, so first we want to create the about function here, and then we can see the about. When we want to see the about section, so that time we can use the about for this, but we cannot see anything after watching this because this particular route cannot be created. When we want to create this particular routes, so for that purpose, firstly we are use the get method, and after that we can use the about as a string. So this is the actually uses of get method, and when I use it, so after that we can see the output about page. Okay, similarly, like if we want to create contact page, so then we can create same thing from this particular process. Okay, so now we can see it as a contact page. So these three URLs already created. Okay, so this is the very basic process where we can create different URL endpoint for the page output. So that time, if we are not declaring anything here, so that means that is home. If we are not creating anything, that is home or default URL. Also we can use this particular things. So if we are use this particular things, so actually we are get same things if you are using anything here or not, so does not changes any output. If we want to create as a admin section, so that time we are not getting admin output. Okay, so when we are not get any admin output, so that time we can create manually admin controller for our admin section. So how can create that? Okay, so if we want to create any admin controller, so that time we can manually create admin.controller.ts. Okay, just simply create the admin controller. Okay, and then create export, and after then we can create the class, and then we can create admin controller for it, and also we can create this. Okay, so when we are create this admin controller, but after using this admin controller we got so many problems. So this is not a problem actually. This is actually suggestions which kind of things can be used in our code. So here so many problems are seeing here, and these particular problems are not a problem. This is the actually guidance which type of code formatting you can be used for your application. Okay, and these particular things are actually managed by this file and this. So I will be discussing it later, but at this moment I mainly focused on controllers. So here I am created the controller section, but this time this is not a home page, this is our admin home page. Okay, so if we are creating any admin home page, so which page actually coming first? So this time we are not getting anything output from this particular admin. Okay, so actually thing is, when I use the admin home page section, so this particular controller also need to be add into this app module.ts section. Okay, so first thing we need to be add the app module ts. Okay, so this time I need to be used to add the admin controller section here, and then we can see some outputs. Okay, so but when I save it after using this, then we got so many problems. If we are refresh the page, so actually our server is crashed. So this time my server is not running. Okay, problem is when I creating the controller like this, but this time I could not use any controller decorator. So this time I need to be use the controller decorator first. When I create the controller decorator, so then we can see the output, but we just see only default output, which is the home page, but I need admin home. So this time we could not see any admin home page section. If we are try it for admin section, for this admin section, so this time admin route not found, because nowhere I could not declare which particular path can be drive this particular URL trap. Okay, so actually in this controller section I can mention it admin path. So this is the actually admin path, and after that this particular things are calling this particular admin path. Okay, so after saving it we can see the output for the admin part. So this is the actually very basic way to create a controller, and after that controller how can be added that controller into the module section, and that module section are connected our controllers with the URL. Okay, so this is the process to manage our routing system. Also, we can add it our functions with the HTTP request method. This is the process to connecting all the thing. This time I am actually create a manual way to create the controller. But if we want to create this controller by the command line, and that controller are connected automatically with the app modules TS section, so must be we need to be use the CLI command line for this particular process. So when we want to create a CLI command, so that time we must have need to be check nest syntax first, and after creating nest syntax we can get so many informations from this section. So this is the actually nest section, and after that we can get so many informations from this. Okay, so what we can do now, so if we want to create the controller, so this is the controller, so this controller have short form of CO. So if we want to create the controller, so that time we need to be use the generate schema. So generate is the main form of the syntax and G is the smallest form of the generate. Okay, so what we can do now, nest G, and after that we can use CO basically for the controller, and now we want to create the user controller. Okay, so this time I just simply create the user controller, and also when I create the user controller, so this time we can create the actually user path first, and after that we got a controller class into this particular section. Okay, and after that if we want to create some home options, so after that we can use this particular function, and we need to be use this get method for this section, and also we have some suggestions. Actually this is actually suggestions, and this type of suggestions are actually getting from the this particular PTR options. We can overlook it because this time all fixes are actually doing with this process. When we are click the bulb sign, and there we can see the fix options. So when we are actually clicking there, and after that we can get some reformatted options. Okay, so this controller when it created, and after that after create this controller automatically added into the app module section, and when it actually added, and after that we can see the output from the user section. So this time we can also get the user home page options through this particular controllers. Okay, so this is the very basic controllers options which can be created through this way. Okay, how can create the routing system using controllers? I just talking about this practical way. After that, how can we manage all the methods, because we have so many different kind of methods already have, and that methods actually need to be used through the various process, because mostly website pages are working with mainly two way. One is the get method, another is the post method. But other than that we have so many HTTP methods already have, and that methods are basically maintained by API accessing application or API accessing library, which can be used for the API access. So when we want to access some APIs, so that time we have so many different kind of methods already have, like get, post, put, patch, options, head. So many things are actually there, and that particular methods actually are working with the some application. Okay, so actually that particular type applications actually can be accessed through the another website or another applications. When we are actually creating any kind of front-end applications like mobile applications or Angular application, React application, so that particular applications is the different from the server-side application. So this time I actually mainly focused on the API based application. So for that particular reason I am actually talking about API endpoint process, how can we manage and how can we create all the things into our application. We already know about how can we get the method, how can we get method are using, but if we want to get some data from the particular URL or particular section, so how can we manage that data? When we are get the data from the contact section, so that is okay. So that time we can see the output. But if we want to use the post method, when we want to use the post method, so that time that particular post method using post contact, these particular functions are actually working for the contact post purpose. and contact post page actually want to see. This is the actually post method are using here, and also want to use the contact path. And when we want to use to access this particular path, so that time we can use the contact here, and this time we only see the this output actually. But if we want to take this output from our application, so for that particular purpose we need to be use the post functions are calling or post method are calling from any application. So this time we have only web browser where we can access only one method, that is get method, from this address URL. So this is the actually address bar URL, and this address bar URL only accessing get method. Except that get method, other methods cannot be accessing directly through this address. But otherwise, if we are creating any forms or any other type of web pages, so from that section we can be access another methods also through the particular that pages. Okay, this time we did not have any HTML form at this moment, so for that reason we need to be use some extra applications to accessing the API endpoint, because this time we have some endpoints, and this URL is a endpoints, and this URL endpoints are actually calling from the some API section. So when I actually want to access the API endpoints, so this time I am using the VS Code, and VS Code is very flexible and very useful code editor. So from this particular VS Code section, I have a plugins are uses, so that called Rapid API Client. So how can we install this? Just go to the extension section, and here you can just use the Rapid API Client. So this is the Rapid API Client, and this Rapid API Client I already installed, and this particular API Client are very useful, and so many positive feedbacks have for this particular extensions. So for that reason I am using it, and I also recommended it. You can also use it for your app development purpose. Okay, so this time I want to access the API endpoint. How can we access this? We want to post some request from some application. This is the application process, and this time we are accessing local application. For that particular process, here we can access the default session, and it is maybe production versions. So here we can create so many environment type, but these two things are actually not required at this moment. So for that reason I just collapse it, and now I add a request. So this time when we add request, so now just simply add the request, and here I just simply use the URL here. Okay, so when I use the URL here, so after using URL we can see the output from this. Okay, so when we are actually hit the URL endpoint, and then we can use the method. So here I have so many methods already. You can see from this section already, you can see so many methods options methods in this section. So this is actually all the methods are actually working here. So this get method are can be used for this section, and when I use the get method option, so here we are getting the string output, and also we get same type of output from this section, and this output for the web section. But actual raw format is, this is the raw format options which is actually sent by the server side. So this is the actually server side informations, which is the header information. Maybe you are not understand what is actually things and why need to be see this process, but I just explain you. This is the actually raw things, and these raw things actually give the server informations to the clients, and also clients send the clients information to the server, and both of them are known each other very closely, and after that they are sharing their informations through the method. Okay, so this is the actually communication process to client and server. So this is the actually process. So this time we can see the output from this section. Okay, but if we want to see the output of this particular method contact post page, so that time we need to be change the method from this section, and after that if we are send, so then we can see the output contact post page. Okay, so actually this particular thing we are not getting from the browser section, so but with this particular request options can be get from the any other special type of application when we are using for our application checking. So basically this time I checking the API endpoint, and API endpoints have so many different kind of methods are already have there. Okay, so for that particular purpose we can send the so many data each other part. Okay, if we want to post some data, because if you have some knowledge about software development process, so that time you already know about from the post method we can get some data from the clients. Okay, how can send the data for the server and how can receive the data, actually server how can receive the data from the client. So here already establish the communication process, but client does not send any data, only server shared some data from the server side, but client does not share any data from the client. So when we are actually sended some data from the client side, so this is the actually client side where we can send the some data request and data from the client section, and after sending the data server are response from this particular area, and when our server sended some request then we can get the data from the server. So here you have two type of things are actually here, request and response. Request and response basically thing is, request means if we get some data from the server or any kind of request actually getting from the server, so that is the actually request. And if server generates some data from the server end, so that time that actually send the response. Request actually uses for the get data purpose and response actually uses for the send data purpose. So this is the server information, which type of data request getting from the client and what kind of data output given from the server. Okay, so this is the actually process which can be actually uses, and here have some information about some URL endpoints. Okay, now we need to be modified into this controller section. When we are actually put some request, so that time here we can use some decorator functions which call request. So if we are use the request, so request is also a function, and after sending the request functions here we can use any, and when we are actually use the request any then we can see some problem. So I need to be use this particular request options here, and after using this we did not see any problem. Okay, now I can get some request from the server side through this particular extensions, and when we are actually use the request method for this particular section, and after using this we does not get any output this particular section, but if we want to get output, so that time we can use the request data from the body section. So body is the actually part of section where we can get so many data. So when I click it, so after clicking here we did not get any problem from the server side. When we are use this particular body except request decorator, actually request decorator functions have so many things are actually involved. In the client section we can get so many type of request from the client section, and most of the popular client data comes from the query section, comes from the body section, comes with the auth options or header. So this is the actually different kind of types request comes from the client side. So this time I just simply use the body decorators. So body decorators are actually uses for this particular portion. So if we are sended some data as a text, this is the test data, and after that we just simply send the data, but we are not get any data output from the server side. Why? Because this server side actually does not send any data directly, because here actually looking for some data as a data types, and this data types actually looking for a JSON data. So when actually looking for the JSON data, so this particular JSON data actually uses for this process. So when we want to use the JSON data format, and from this data format we can use through this, and now here we can send the data through this. With the JSON data we can send the data, and after sending the data we can get the response from the server through this way. Okay, so actually get the data from the body section, and also same data are returned back from the server this way. Okay, we can also send the data through this particular process. It is also more readable and if we want to see another data like status, okay, so we can send the another data and we can get the data response from the server, similar kind of. And this JSON tree also created with this. Okay, this is the process to accessing the data. Also want to send some data from encoded. Actually, this is the from encoded section, means this particular process are actually uses for the form section when we are actually using website form. So that website forms actually uses look like this. And also we can use another way to get data to the query. Okay, if we are using the query section, so that time we can get query data look like this way. So this is the query data, and this query data actually comes from this. Okay, so if we are send the data to the query, and if we are using the query function, so that time we can use the query. And after that, if we are sending any data from this section, so from this particular section we can get query data. Okay, so this is the actually basic things which can be used through the controller section. So many things are actually can be used. And also if we want to use for the put options, and after this we could not see the output because this time put data does not have into the server side registration. So if we want to use this particular path as a put method, that time we can also use it as a put method. And after using the put method, we can accessing this data through the put method. Okay, so this is the way to access different kind of methods through this process. Okay, and this is the actually main things which is the maintained or handled by the controllers. I think you can understand about the controllers, and if you have any questions or doubts, you can write your doubts and questions into the comment section. I definitely answer you through the comments. So if you are new in my YouTube channel, so definitely subscribe my YouTube channel, and already subscriber on my YouTube channel, so hit the like button if you like my video, and share my video with your friend who want to learn about NestJS. And step by step I detail talk about the NestJS, and I will be meet with you with the next topic with my next video tutorial.